Let me tell you, I am a sucker for indie platformers, and my latest obsession is Celeste. However, one issue I've always had is that these games don't support analog inputs, which in their defense, it really isn't necessary because of how simple they are. As a result, when I play with my trusty Xbox 360 controller, inputs can get a little vague with the analog stick. Also, the D-pad is pathetic. I've dealt with this in other games, but in Celeste it really gets in the way because of the insane level of precision that you need. If you ever played it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I've thought about using a USB SNES controller, but the quality is iffy. But fret not, since some richer video game controllers that you have buried in a closet would work quite well. And today I'm going to show you how to do so using our good old friend Arduino. But also, how not to do it, because it's funny, educational, and science. Yeah. To kick things off, let's start with the way God intended. The main goal is to map controller inputs to keyboard inputs. First and foremost, this requires an Arduino, but not your standard Uno board. What you need is a Leonardo, since it has USB functionality built in, which allows us to send keyboard inputs as if it were an actual keyboard. There is almost no way around this, since your standard Uno, Nano, or Mega has no such functionality. The other thing you need is a library that can read inputs from the controller. I'm using the digital controller for the original PlayStation, but you can find resources for most video game controllers from before 2000. Just go to Google and search the controller you're using plus Arduino and you'll find something, probably. In order to set it up, you will need to stick wires into the controller plug. How you do this depends on the controller you're using, and there will be a diagram of pinouts you can refer to. For this, I'm using female breadboard jumper wires with the black plastic pieces removed from the end. It is often tough to actually get a connection, so if it doesn't work at all, just try to play with the wires a little. If you're desperate, you can even destroy the plug. From there, you can plug power, ground, and data wires into your Arduino. It is very important, however, to keep in mind whether your controller takes 5 volts or 3.3 volts, since you could potentially damage it. It also might be useful to put a kill switch, because it's going to break or do something that it shouldn't do. As for the software, you will be utilizing the built-in keyboard library and whatever other library you find for your controller. The exact code varies depending on what library you use, but the general gist is the same. First, declare your controller object with the necessary pins. Then, in setup, set up your kill switch and keyboard, and initialize the controller if necessary. In loop, you have an if statement that checks for the kill switch, and within that is where all the action happens. First, if necessary, call the controller's update function. Then, for each button you're using, check if it's pressed, and if so, press whatever key is bound to the desired action, and release it if not. And finally, once that's uploaded, it's literally just plug and play. This is the only way anyone should do it. This is literally my preferred way of playing Celeste, and if you were just looking for some advice on how to do something like this, you can stop watching now. However, if you are a masochist or enjoy looking at unnecessarily horrible solutions to problems that have already been solved in the name of science or something, then stick around. Well, if you insist on using an Uno, there's sort of a way to do it. While the Uno does not have USB functionality in the same way that the Leonardo does, it can still communicate with the computer through a serial port. That's actually how you upload sketches to the board. In addition, there is also the ability to send text or bytes over serial, which is usually used to print stuff in the serial monitor for debugging and such. The idea here is to use a Python script to read from the serial port and send key inputs. I won't get into the details of how I did it, but here's a visual metaphor for what I had to do. But does it work? Well, sort of. I tried to set this up for V, since it is pretty much the simplest game I own, but it just did nothing. I was about to give up on this when I decided to try Celeste just for the heck of it, and it strangely worked. I can't be bothered to look into why this happened, but this excerpt from the credits of Celeste may give a hint. Finally, the last and least way involves literally hijacking a keyboard with an Arduino. In order to do this, which I am only doing in the name of science, we must take an old keyboard and disassemble it. Firstly, every keycap must be removed. And then you take the keyboard apart with a screwdriver and great effort. Yes. At this point, we're left with a stack of 3 thin plastic membranes. The top and bottom ones have an assortment of metal contacts, and the middle one isolates the two, with numerous holes that allow the contacts to be shorted when a key pushes down on them. What I'm doing here is connecting a transistor between pairs of contacts, which allows me to short them using an Arduino's digital pins. It sounds crazy because it is. With the help of a bit of persuasion, it can work. It shouldn't not work anywhere, as long as a keyboard is supported, but...
Yeah, but your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think if they should.
And on that note, thanks for watching. If you are interested, all libraries I use will be linked in the description. Anyways, I'ma see you whenever I feel like uploading again. This is quality content right here. Just me walking back and forth in Celeste.